Hello, this is Aja, and thank you very much for purchasing your environmental risk report. We wanted to take just a few minutes to walk you through the report to make sure that you get the most that you possibly can out of it. We created a sample report, but this is actually based on a real location and we modified some of the information just to protect the property owner. But we thought it would be a really great example to show you how your environmental risk report can really help you to prepare for a natural disaster if it occurs. We also cover how you might be able to use some of this information to either get insurance coverage or to improve your insurance coverage. Your environmental risk report will cover what we call perils, 3 perils to be exact: hail, wind, and flood. Each of the perils have been evaluated, and the report will provide you with a CDC exposure rating. You'll also see a CDC exposure score, and the lower the score, the better. And at the end of the report, I'll walk you through a report summary with a few links to resources you might find helpful if you need to do a little bit more digging to prepare, plan, and protect, or to go out and purchase some insurance coverage on your own. Let's start with hail. As you can see, each peril will have a CDC exposure rating in the upper right-hand corner with a corresponding score. The lower, the better. When we evaluate perils such as hail, wind, and flood, we typically like to look at it from 2 different perspectives. First, how severe will it be? How bad will it be? And second, how likely is it that it will even occur? So what we decided to do in our reports is to give you information on both: how likely it is to occur and information on how bad the damage might be if it actually occurs. On the left, you'll see information on the likelihood of occurrence, how likely it is to occur. And in order to know that, we usually look to the past. So, in the past, based on data from the NOAA, we've had 15 hail events in Plymouth County. This is the subject county. In the past 10 years, there have been 15 hail events in that county and 504 throughout the entire state of Massachusetts, where the county is located. However, we provide a little bit more information. We dig in further, and we find that for Plymouth County, 33% of all of those hail events have occurred in the past 5 years, which is not the majority. So that's a positive. We also created info on the right-hand side to give you a little bit of information about what type of damage may occur and other technical details. But we're glad to know for this particular peril, the exposure is considered to be low. Next up, let's go to wind. For this location, the wind exposure rating is in the mid-range with a score of 50. Now, for wind events, we classify them in 2 categories, either tropical storms or hurricanes. What's the difference? Well, we gave you a little bit of information about that on the right-hand side in the technical details section. And we also give you information on your property, whether you're located in what would be considered a tropical storm region or whether you're located in an area that would be considered to be a hurricane region. And for this particular property, it's located within what's called a hurricane region. Regarding the past, we can see for this location in Plymouth County, 67% of all of the wind events occurred in the past 5 years, which is the majority. And we consider that to be a negative, which affects the CDC exposure rating by bumping it up to mid. Next, let's go on to flood, where we have a similar layout. We have a CDC exposure rating in the upper right corner and a rating of high. We also have some information about the occurrences on the left, the past events. And we also see that for Plymouth County, 43% of all those flood events occurred in the past 5 years, which is not quite the majority, but too close for comfort. And at CDC, based on our engineering guidelines and industry standards, we consider this to be a negative, which further bumps up the CDC exposure rating and score to a 90. We also provide some information about the technical details on the right-hand side, such as the different types of flooding events. Did you even know that there were different types? There are. We have inland flooding, which usually corresponds to rivers, coastal, which is also known as storm surge or just surge, and we also have flash floods that happen quickly, or surface water, another type of flood that can happen very quickly as well. We also made a note, which is very important, that roughly 25% of all of the flood damages occur outside of what we call known mapped flood zones. What are mapped flood zones? Well, we wanted to provide you with that information as well, so that you could use that in case you needed to go out and purchase some additional flood insurance. And since flood is a major peril for the majority of the states throughout the US, we wanted to make sure that we gave you a little bit more information on this particular peril. On the next page, you can see what's called your predominant flood risk. This is where we tell you, out of all the different types of flooding events, which type you should expect. And that's important to know because different types of flooding events have different types of damages associated with them. So we provide a bit of information about inland flooding, and we also provide a flood map so that you can see where the flood zone is based on your property's location. And we also want to take it another step further and let you know whether or not you're actually located in what's called a special flood hazard area, otherwise known as an SFHA, or whether you're even too close to that special flood hazard area. As I mentioned on the prior page, we've seen a lot of flooding outside of the flood zones, even outside by more than 500 feet. So we always look at not just the flood zones, but we also look up the areas and things that are exposed outside of those flood zones. Because this location is within a flood zone, and even if it was located too close to a flood zone, we recommend excess flood insurance coverage, and we give you some information on that in the report summary on the next page. Let's jump on to that next. On this page, you can see the report summary. We give you information for all the different types of perils that we've evaluated: hail, wind, and flood. And because in some cases you may have locations that have high ratings for maybe all three perils, we wanted to identify what we consider to be the predominant risk for your location. That way you know where to focus. And for this particular location, the predominant risk is flood. So we give you some additional free resources associated with flood. You'll find free information on a website called disastersafety.org. You'll also find information on the National Flood Insurance Policy in case you want to go out and get a better understanding of your flood insurance coverage. There's some information on FEMA resources and a little bit more information about what excess flood insurance really is. But again, we like to remind people that insurance is just a backup. It's the worst case. It's what happens when everything goes wrong. It's not the solution. There are things that we can do to plan, prepare, and protect our businesses, our homes, our properties, and our livelihoods. So if you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed, or if you just want someone to take care of it so you can get on with your day, hit us up to schedule a consultation. We're here to help. Thank you very much.